As much as the Transformers fandom collectively sucks off Skywarp for having the objectively best color scheme ever to exist, who even is he? Like, Starscream is iconic and requires no introduction. Thundercracker is known for being the pussy of the trio, having that cringe thing he calls a conscience or whatever, and Skywarp is the one who teleports sometimes. He's probably more fleshed out in the comics or something, but as if I'm ever gonna read those. Nevertheless, he's still one of the most marketable characters in all Transformers, which is kind of a feat, isn't it? Welcome to Kit Katastrophe. My name is Kit, and today we'll be taking a look at Transformers Earthrise Voyager Class Skywarp. This figure was released in 2020 as part of a Target exclusive 2-pack, and is a redeco and retool of Transformers Earthrise Voyager Class Starscream. Skywarp fires up the loins of many a Transformers fan by turning into that off-doggled black and purple F-15 fighter jet we all know and love. This jet is cast entirely with a matte black finish, giving him a more velvety texture than his glossy Siege counterpart. It didn't help that Siege Skywarp was more of a charcoal gray than true black, but that just helps give Earthrise Skywarp more of a royal presence. While Siege Skywarp livened up the color scheme by giving the entire nose cone a slick silver coat of paint, Earthrise Skywarp is more subdued, with the silver remaining on the intakes flanking the cockpit. Thundercracker had a similar effect, but the silver pops out far more against black than against blue. Now, despite having the absolute best choice of primary and secondary colors on the planet, Skywarp does look a touch boring. That's in part due to the lack of stripes on his tail fins, something which Starscream had, but both Thundercracker and Skywarp lack. Of course, by the time this video gets published, you'll have already seen that Toy Hacks took care of this gripe quite well, but this is a review of the base figure. Another gripe I have is the lack of a silver or white outline against the Decepticon symbols on Skywarp's wings. The purple used here is just too dark to contrast against the black in such little amounts, meaning it gets washed out unless you look really closely. As for structural issues, Skywarp's right wing likes to pop off its mushroom peg in this mode, and I hear this is an issue on others' copies? Luckily, neither of my other Seekers have this problem. Oh, also, there's a splot of silver just behind one of the intakes on mine. Skywarp's transformation is unchanged from either of his two previous mold mates, and outside of that wing popping off in vehicle mode, feels just as good to perform. I didn't learn of this until I saw Lazy Eyebrow's review of the mold, but there are tabs on the back of his knees that slot into the boots, making for much more solid legs. I still don't particularly enjoy flexing the collar pieces in order to free up the torso, but since it isn't a major one, I don't think he'll be breaking anytime soon. At least, I hope not. The cockpit swivel joint feels a little looser on Skywarp than it did on Thundercracker or Starscream, but at that point I'm just looking for things to complain about to pad time. I really love the proportions of the robot mode on this mold. There's just something so satisfying about the sharp corners and smooth lines of this thing. Throughout the Generation 1 cartoon, the Seekers were often used as crowd fillers and generic Decepticon muscle, and this Seeker mold fits the bill quite nicely, with its stocky, sturdy legs and beefy torso. Speaking of the torso, Skywarp features a much appreciated smattering of silver surrounding the cockpit like an accretion disc. One thing I've noticed about the last two Skywarps we've gotten is that the purples are the exact same, but Earthrise Skywarp's purple looks so much richer, most likely because the corresponding black is also much richer. It also helps that there aren't any of those gaudy cum stains which splattered and dribbled all down Siege Skywarp's nubile form. The head sculpt is just as good as ever, for the most part. For some reason, Skywarp's mouth is forever frozen into this perpetual dumbass soy-induced soulless gape. I legit can't fathom a single reason why this face was even made, let alone given to Skywarp and no one else. Also, I might be mistaken on a claim I made in my Thundercracker review where I said he's the only Seeker with an unpainted helmet. Either Skywarp's helmet is just cast in a glossy black plastic that isn't found on either him or Thundercracker, or the black paint that is on this helmet is extremely durable, because for the life of me, I can't find a single paint chip on this thing, so I'm starting to think it might not be paint. Skywarp's head is on a ball joint that allows him to look up and look down, he can look left, and he can look right, and he can even look behind himself. It has a very nice waggle to it, he can tilt his head side to side and just scream at every angle. His arms move outwards on a hinge that goes out all the way, They swivel 360 degrees, at least insofar until they hit the wings. There is a bicep swivel that rotates... apparently does not want to rotate... there we go. That rotates 360 degrees all the way around, and the elbow bends just over 90 degrees, and the wrist can move forward a little bit if it dislocates from its socket. The wings have a joint that allows them to fold backwards if you so desire, but I just like to keep them tilt back just a little bit. He has nothing at the waist because of the way the torso comes together, and that is a damn shame. But the front skirt moves forward, which allows the hips to move forward, not that far, and they can't move backwards very far either because of this butt flap. But when was the last time you kicked your legs behind your back? The hips move outwards at a respectable degree, but it's not the best. They rotate 360 degrees, and the knees can bend a lot more than 90 degrees. That is a very nice knee bend, and because of pegging in the tab into the slot during transformation, this knee is dead solid. It is not coming apart until you so desire. Finally, at the feet, there is an ankle pivot that brings the tail fins with it. Some people don't like it. I don't mind it. They're on the same joint as the heel, which means if you're just trying to move the heel, you can bring these things with it, and that's kind of annoying. Also, you can point the toe. That's it for Skywarp. He's okay. He's okay. He can do a lot of things that you want him to do, but in terms of sheer articulation, Siege is the way to go. But I still prefer Earthrise because look at this chunkster. It felt really good by how easy it was to procure all three main Seekers in Earthrise. Sure, Thundercracker and Skywarp were Target exclusives, meaning they weren't exactly the easiest to get, looking at you, Thrust, Runabout, and Leadfoot, but they were released right around the opening of the line, so it was pretty easy to get them all in one go, as opposed to Siege Skywarp's artificial scarcity driving up prices past the stratosphere, which is why I only have one out of the 4 Coneheads, and that number will probably never exceed 2. Back on topic, Skywarp is a very nice figure, though he has the same limitations as his brethren. All I'm saying is he's the best one of the mold so far, but he's not better enough to get anything other than the rank of lovely. If you liked this video or otherwise found it helpful or informative, then please subscribe for more reviews like this in the future, and feel free to suggest topics for future reviews in the comments. When we return, it'll be time to take a new step into the wider Transformers universe. This has been Kit Katastrophe. Transform and roll out.